China ramping up the artificial intelligence race with DeepSeek, claiming it's a cheaper competitor to American apps. Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice says that this moment is, quote, game on, not game over. Writing on FoxNews.com this week, quote, Chinese President Xi Jinping has made no secret of his plans to overtake the United States as a technological power, buying, stealing, and developing capabilities in everything from synthetic biology to batteries. Last year, China surpassed the United States as the nation with the most highly cited scientific publications in the world. And China is doubling down on investment, spending 1.3% of its GDP on research, while the United States federal spending has shrunk to just 0.65% of GDP. Here is Vice President J.D. Vance at an AI summit in Paris, where he spoke forcefully about this week. Watch.
The United States of America is the leader in AI, and our administration plans to keep it that way. We need international regulatory regimes that fosters the creation of AI technology rather than strangles it.
Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice joins me now. She is also co-chair of the Stanford Emerging Technology Review and director of Stanford's Hoover Institution. Dr. Rice, always good to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us today. I want to start, if I may, by getting your reaction to Vance in Paris, talking about really speaking very strongly to Europe and saying, don't let your regulation get in the way of winning this race.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. And secondly, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think that the vice president is absolutely right, that the United States is currently the technological leader, and we have to keep it that way. We absolutely have to win this race so that a democracy wins the race for these frontier technologies, not an authoritarian state. And China, of course, is the great competitor here. I do think that it's awfully important to note that there is a role for the federal government, and the federal government needs to keep and increase its spending in these frontier technologies in universities like Stanford and MIT and places where a lot of these breakthroughs are taking place. But also, we have the advantage of a private sector that is extremely innovative and creative. And I do worry that some of the regulatory impulses in Europe to really restrain the technological advances of some of the American private sector are really troubling. So kudos to the vice president for speaking out about that.
You know, in terms of danger, you've compared this to the nuclear arms race, to the building of the atom bomb. And here's Elon Musk talking about the most extreme danger that AI could possibly present. Watch.
There is some chance that above zero that AI will kill us all. I think it's low, but there's some chance. If you study history, I think you realize that there's a rise and fall to every civilization. Every civilization has sort of a lifespan. We want ours to last as long as possible.
Do you agree with him on that potential threat?
Well, I think that we don't know really what the potential threats are, but I do think that we recognize that every technology has its downsides. The nuclear age came about with the splitting of the atom and the ability to turn the lights on with civil nuclear power, or the ability to do medical isotopes. It also came with the nuclear bomb. And so human beings have always been a lot better at the knowledge part than the wisdom part. This time, given the existential nature of these transformational technologies, we have to be good at both. And so what we need to do is to find a way to fully exploit the opportunities. And the opportunities are tremendous for AI in education, in healthcare, in productivity, in our industries. But of course, there are potential downsides. It's another reason that I always say, let democracies win this race. Whatever happens with these technologies, we will have investigative reporting, which probably some of you will do at Fox. We will have congressional hearings. Do you think for 1 minute that the Chinese will have those guardrails? No, they'll treat it like they did COVID. They'll hide about it. They'll lie about it. And so it's even another reason that the United States needs to run fast and hard. And again, regulation will come. but please don't let it be regulation that stops the innovative impulse that is so strong in American society.
Yeah, Vance spoke of strangling it. I have to ask you before I let you go, because you are a Russia expert academically. What are your thoughts so far on this emerging process for a negotiation to end the war and bringing in Putin and Zelensky under President Trump's invitation to come to the table?
Well, we definitely want to see an end to this war, but we have to remember who started it. Vladimir Putin started this war. He started as a war of aggression. He started as a war to try to recreate the Russian Empire. And so I heard some very positive things. First of all, that Ukraine is going to have a say in its future. This can't be a negotiation between the United States and Russia over Ukraine's future. Secondly, I thought when the vice president said that we have to make sure that there's sovereign independence for Ukraine, absolutely. And finally, I thought there was a good message to Putin also in what he said, that, we still have options in terms of sanctions, maybe in terms of mobilizing even more militarily for Ukraine. Those are important messages to Vladimir Putin, who started this war. There is no reason to believe that it can't end on terms that allow Ukraine to continue to develop as an independent country, but under no circumstances can you recognize Vladimir Putin's aggression.
Last question. President Trump said the other day that he was open to re-welcoming Russia to the G8. Is that a good idea?
Well, if Russia earns its way back into the G8, it'll be a good idea. But let's make sure that if they came back on terms that rejected what Vladimir Putin did in really upending the international rules-based order. We don't want to live in a world in which a great power thinks that it can simply extinguish its smaller neighbor. So let's make sure that he understands that if he's going to be welcomed back. I think we're a ways away from that personally.
Dr. Condoleezza Rice, director of Stanford's Hoover Institution and former Secretary of State. Always good to see you. Thank you very much for joining me today, Condi.
Pleasure to be with you always.